Welcome back to the Locs channel. Today I will be discussing if you can wash starter locks without retwisting. So if you have starter locks right now, I know that scalp is probably itching, something awful. And of course you're thinking about when can you wash? When can you experience that godsend in the form of a wash, right? But because of the times that we're currently living in, getting a retwist, especially when you don't do it yourself, is not really a viable option anymore. And of course, because you're new to the lock journey, you don't know how to retwist yourself, right? So all of this just begs the question, can you wash starter locks without retwisting? Because you need to wash those starter locks, but you don't have anybody to do the retwist. If you want to get that question answered and more, stay tuned. As usual, you guys, if you have not already done so, hit the subscribe button so that you can see more videos from moi. And if you are already subscribed, be sure to hit the notification bell so that you are made aware of every single time I upload as soon as I upload. So, can you wash starter locks without retwisting? Well, I'm gonna say yes and no. Let me explain. So of course you can wash your starter locks without retwisting. I mean, it's not like if you wash them, they're gonna shrivel up and then fall off your head, right? But there is of course one potential consequence, and that is unraveling, which of course is the reason that you clicked on this video. So let me stop messing with you. Before we get to the yes, there are a couple of things that you need to take into account when worrying about whether or not washing your starter locks will cause them to unravel. The first being, you need to take into consideration your hair type, meaning do you have hair type of a kinky, coily nature, or is it wavier and fine? This makes a big difference because your hair texture will determine how prone your starter locks are to unraveling. For instance, if you have kinky, coily hair, then you are honestly sitting the prettiest of them all because kinkier hair has the most resistance when it comes to unraveling. But of course, even with this texture, some of your locks may unravel, and that's okay. Rest assured, nowhere near as many if you had a wavier or finer hair texture. The second thing that you need to consider is the starter lock installation type, or the starter lock type. How did you get your locks started? For example, someone with instant locks, of course they can wash all day and night. I mean, they really shouldn't, but they could wash as much as they want to, right? They don't need to worry about their starter locks coming out because essentially the hair is already locked up. So washing them is not going to cause them to unravel. Another example would be someone who got their starter locks by way of interlocking. Because their starter locks were installed by making knots, then they also don't have to worry about washing and unraveling because those knots are going to keep those starter locks secure. Maybe not all the way down to the tip of the starter lock, but the hair that's coming from the scalp, that's gathered in the knot. So they don't have to worry about losing those sections, which is the most important thing. In general, methods that entail the matting up of the hair or knots, those will be the starter lock types that will have the most resistance to unraveling when washing them. So if you fall into that sort of category, then you definitely should go ahead and wash your locks. But let's say that after you've taken your hair type and your starter lock type into account, you've decided that yes, there's a very good chance that your locks, some or maybe the majority of them, are gonna unravel. Can you wash your starter locks without retwisting? Should you? I say yes, and I have 3 reasons that I still say yes. The first reason that I say yes is because washing your starter locks can actually expedite the budding process. The very thing that you think will lead to your starter locks unraveling could be the exact thing that will give you a more permanent fix for the unraveling in the long run, which is of course your hair locking up, right? That's the best fix for unraveling starter locks, for them to actually lock up. And what I'm telling you is that washing your starter locks can actually expedite that whole locking up process. You know that those starter locks need to start budding before it enters the phase where it's completely locked. So think about what happens when you're washing your hair. Not only are you cleansing your scalp and the actual strands of hair, but you're also causing more tangling to happen. And then when you do that first retwist, and you're combing through, resectioning things, that creates knots. Now let me put in a shameless plug. that if you don't know how to retwist, and say it is your first month, or you know, you're new to the lock game and you don't know how to retwist, that first time that it's time to retwist, that's actually as good a time as any to learn how to. Okay, for me, I didn't know how to retwist, and I retwisted after my first month. That's when I did my first wash after a month's time, and then I did my retwist. Through more and more practice, I got better at it. Now retwisting is nothing. It takes no time for me. So it's just a shameless plug for you to actually learn how to retwist your own locks, especially during these times. It's always nice to have options. Yeah, you don't have to retwist after washing, but you can if you want to. Just saying. Talk about counterintuitive, eh? The second reason that I say yes is because you can always wear something like a do-rag or something of a comparable material to cover your locks while you're washing them. This also may seem counterintuitive. I'm putting something over my locks to wash them, but the thing is that water and that shampoo will penetrate the material. It will get at your locks, it will get at your scalp, and you'll be able to clean them while only minimally disturbing the locks. So it's kind of a workaround. And I say, if your scalp is itching and you need to clean it, then you really should consider doing that versus just suffering in silence, right? The third reason that I say yes is because after you wash, if you're not going to retwist, you can always separate those starter locks. Now, you may not have the degree of marriages occurring that someone like me who has had locks for longer than 6 years has, right? But the fact still remains that you will have loose strands going in different directions, and you need to gather that hair back into the appropriate starter lock. So just separating, and you can even go so far as to lightly twist those locks once you've grouped that hair back together. And this is not on the level of retwisting, right? Just kind of twirling those hairs into the lock. I mean, I feel like the majority of new lockers do that anyway, which, you know, done in excess can be a bad thing because you can thin your scalp out, right? But a little twisting after a wash, if you're worried about your locks unraveling, that won't hurt them. So that is yet another reason why I say yes, you can wash starter locks without retwisting. Basically, what I'm telling you is that you have options. You're not boxed in. And if all else fails, say some of your locks do unravel, the very next retwist you get, everything will be put back in place. That's the whole point of getting your locks maintained, right? Especially during that first year. It's because unraveling is expected to happen. It's because hairs traveling out of the lock is expected. The point of getting a retwist is to put everything back in place. So don't freak out if it happens. Know that it's gonna happen to some extent, varying degrees for different people. But during that next retwist, whenever it's gonna be, whether it's from you or from someone else, all will be made right again and you'll be put back on the straight path. So basically you're traveling and maybe you start to veer, but then with that next retwist, you get put back, you know, that course correction has engaged and you're back on track. So don't panic, okay? If this video is making you feel a little bit better about washing your starter locks, please let me know down in the comment section. All right, you guys, hopefully this video has answered the question, can you wash starter locks without retwisting? In my opinion, the answer is an emphatic yes. Washing is a necessity. At the end of the day, your starter locks are going to become locks. It's inevitable. So try not to stress too much during the process. Just go with it. Haven't you ever heard, don't fight the process? Yeah, don't fight it. Just go with it. It's gonna be okay. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have starter locks, let me know if you have washed them and how that turned out for you. And if you're already locked, let me know when you first washed your starter locks. Down in the comment section, I'm totally curious. By the way, the highly awaited 2-strand twist video will be out this Saturday. It's gonna be my first 2-strand twist, my first style period in over 6 years of having locks. So definitely be on the lookout for that this Saturday. If you choose to love, do so unconditionally, because loving with conditions conditions the heart to not really love at all. This is Retwisting Your Locks, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.